FC presents the Gab and Juls show. Today we dive deeper into Barcelona's standoff with Lionel Messi, and Jan van Hangelen tells us just how Donny van de Beek will fit in at Manchester United. And now from the ESPN newsroom in London, here's Gab and Stuart Robson.
It's Thursday, and it's the Gab and Juls show. No Julian Lawrence this week, but never fear, because Robbo's back. I'm back, too. Did you guys miss me? Did you notice I was away?
Was that a nice holiday?
It was a lovely, lovely holiday. Anyway, nobody cares about my holiday. They want to hear about football. We'll be talking about Donny van de Beek joining Manchester United, and we'll be joined by the legendary Jan van Hangelen from Fox Sports in Holland, who's going to help us with that. And obviously, we'll be doing our quick hits, but where else are we going to start? Lionel Messi. All right. The situation is evolving, so bear with us. I'm just going to run through what we know, Robbo, as of Thursday morning, as we're taping this. So yesterday on Wednesday, his dad, Jorge Messi, lands in Barcelona together with his brother Rodrigo. He goes, he meets lawyers, he has a meeting with Bartomeu, 90 minutes to 2 hours. Effectively, it's a stalemate. Comes out of it, the central issue is, can he leave on a free, or the interpretation of his clause. Barcelona saying no. If he wants to leave, you got to pay the release clause. At the end, Bartomeu even rather cheekily talked about extending the deal by 2 years. So we sit and we wait right now. But I wanted to get from you. If this thing goes to court, it's a lose-lose situation, right? Because you're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 months in which whoever wins actually loses. It's the ultimate Pyrrhic victory, right? Because Messi doesn't get to play, and he's 33 and he wants to play. And obviously, at best, Barcelona get him back halfway through the season, but he's unhappy and
not
he leaves on a free.
Fully fit.
Yeah, and he leaves on a free on June 30th. They're going to have to work out some sort of deal here, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's the player needs to play, and everybody wants to see Messi play, whether it's for Man City or whether it's for Barcelona. Get the best out of him. Now,
my initial sense in this, and I said this, was, this is a power play, right? He's exercising this. He wants to remind the club how badly run they've been. You know, we've been through all the screw-ups and why Barcelona are a dumpster fire right now. Because he threatens to leave so that they make him more central to the rebuild. Perhaps, there's elections coming up in March. He gets what he wants, right? I saw it as a power play. Now, I'm not convinced of this at all. If it is a power play, Messi's one of the few people who can pull off a power play, right?
Doesn't he already have a lot of power at Barcelona in terms of what formation the team play, the players that they try and buy in and around him?
Do they? Does he?
I think he has.
He's got a director of football he doesn't like. He's got these executives he doesn't like. He got Bartomeu he doesn't like. I don't know.
What extra power does he want? Apart from being the player manager.
Well, this is the tricky thing with Messi, right? Is that, he's been at the club for 20 years, but he's a very, very private person, right? We don't have any real sense of what his personality. He doesn't talk very often when he speaks. He doesn't say much, apart from those statements, which are very forceful when he does speak. But I take it as read that he wants what's best for Barcelona, and he doesn't think that he cares deeply about this club, which has been his home for 20 years, and that he doesn't think that these people are good stewards of the club. And he's genuinely concerned about what might happen next. I mean, that's one reading. Yeah. The other reading is that...
I don't think he's overly pleased with who's coming as manager either, is he? Or head coach.
Really? Ronald Koeman doesn't impress you? No, but the other reading is that he wants to go to Manchester City. And the reason I struggled with that originally was, if you want to go to Manchester City, all you had to do was, by June 10th, inform the club. There wouldn't have been this debate about when the clause was actually active, not active. You could have told them, I'm exercising the clause. I'll sign on through to the end of the Champions League. You could have sent the same message. And the fact that he didn't do it made me think, okay, then it must be a power play. But then I was reminded that on June 10th, Manchester City had a 2-year ban. Right? Their ban hadn't been overturned yet.
Yeah, of course.
So that actually wasn't an option for him. I don't know. The other issue, of course, with City is, can they afford him in terms of financial fair play?
And they still want other players as well, don't they?
Which we'll get to, Koulibaly, whatnot. Now, my interpretation on this is that the thing about Messi is he's such a game changer in terms of sponsors, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, people know that they get sponsorship from the golf, and it is inflated, and UEFA marks it down, and whatever else. But City have been profitable for the last 5 years.
Similar to how Ronaldo when he went to Juventus.
Exactly. Messi is such a game changer that if you go and you say suddenly, oh look, this deal with Etihad or whatever, if it was worth 10 widgets before, now look, it's Messi, it's worth 100 widgets. UEFA benchmark these deals, but there is no benchmark for Messi, right? So it's difficult for you to, because he's such a transformational player. You can make a strong argument that whatever they choose to put in is legit.
Yeah.
Because there's never been anything like this. So it's an interesting one. We'll see. City's still saying that, unofficially, my understanding is they do not want to pay a transfer fee. So they will take them on a free.
Yeah.
In the end, you assume that you can reach some kind of resolution. Maybe Messi takes a bit of a pay cut, and then some of that money goes back to Barcelona. There is a compromise to be had here, but I think it's a question of who blinks first. And I don't think this is going to get resolved in the next few days.
And even if he does go to Manchester City, there's a compromise there with how Pep Guardiola would have to set his team up as well.
And that's another huge issue, of course, because obviously they did very well at Barcelona, but
it was a different Messi then, and a different tactics,
and a different Pep. Yeah, this is high energy stuff. I mean, we'll get into that some more going forward, no doubt. But I think we're going to have to see a very different game plan from Pep if he does come.
Welcome back to ESPN FC presents the Gab and Juls show. And now, Jan-Joost van Hangelen joins Gab and Stewart to talk all things Van de Beek.
Okay, enough Messi. Never thought I'd say that. Well, let's talk Donny van de Beek. And we're joined by Jan-Joost van Hangelen from our colleagues at Fox Sports in Holland. Jan-Joost, let's get right into it. Van de Beek, a year ago, he was part of that golden trio, actually probably more than a trio, for Ajax. Now he goes to Manchester United for a fee that seems incredibly reasonable. What, 40 million?
Yeah, true. Good afternoon, guys. First of all, the price in the beginning, Ajax wanted to have 55 million euros, that is. But then the corona came, and Ajax and Van de Beek had already a deal with Real Madrid. It was in January. The deal was fixed. Everybody was happy. Van de Beek especially, because, of course, Real Madrid is, maybe together with Man United, one of the biggest teams in the world. They only had to do the medical, but of course that's always the last thing that needs to be fixed, the medical. But then Corona came, and then Real Madrid didn't want to do it anymore because they had to refresh, they had to sell players. So the Van de Beek team, let's call it the Van de Beek team, they were really, really disappointed that it didn't went on, because they thought maybe a year earlier we should have made a deal with another club, because he came at Ajax when he was 10, but there are, during the year, so many clubs that informed, do you want to play with us, like Roma, Arsenal, Spurs, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich, and they always said, no, I'm not done at Ajax yet, I want to stay, I want to learn, here I know what I have. So in January, he was like, I'm in 7th heaven, I'm going to Madrid. I'm really the most happiest guy on earth, but then it didn't went on. And last week, there was a different ball game, to put it that way.
Now, when he was a younger player, I saw him at the 2014 European Championship, where they got to the final, the Dutch, and he was the outstanding player in the tournament. But he played in a different role to the one we've seen him play at Ajax recently, and everybody's asking, can he play in the same team as Fernandes? But he can play deeper, can't he?
He can. Actually, it's funny because when Frank de Boer took him to the first squad, he said his best position is the number 6. Number 6 position is good because he has a lot of power. Most of the time, he's the player with the most kilometers behind his name after the match. He can penetrate the box. He's really intelligent. He sees things. He can play between the lines. He said he's my ideal number 6 after Lasse Schöne left Ajax. He be an 8 and he can be a 10. But the 10 maybe at Man United can be the best position. I think he's going to play the number 10 position. And I also think he can play with Bruno Fernandes and also with Pogba because he's the guy who goes into the box all the time. It's never ending. He's smart, he can score goals. He has a lot of assists. The only thing is, I was wondering because I saw the interview with Man United TV with Van der Beek for this interview. He said, can he play on a midfield with Pogba and with Bruno Fernandes? Isn't that too attacking? I don't think so. I don't think it's too attacking as long as everybody knows what's expected. I think Solskjaer, he had a really good conversation with him last week on Wednesday. He knew everything about him. He knew his specialties, and he's also convinced that he can play with the two. So I think he's going to be the number 10 at Man United. Besides that, he plays with 34, of course, on his back. But I think at United, his best position or his position is going to be the number 10.
Yeah, and I think it's not really in stone. You could play front three. They could also play a diamond, play two strikers up front. We could accommodate all three of them and a holding midfielder. Jan-Joos, can you give us just a sense about Ajax? About obviously they've transitioned. They've moved a lot of homegrown players out. And Van der Beek, a guy who'd been there since he was 10. What's going on there with some of the choices that they're making in the market?
Yeah, that's a bit. I think that's a bit. It's not sure how it's going to end up because in the early days, the Ajax DNA was to play with like maybe 6, 7, even 8 players from their own youth. Things changed. They played the Europa League final in 2017 against Man United. They had the semi-finals in the Champions League. They want to move on, but the problem is if you want to move on and you want to have really good players, you have to buy players because, well, you have a lot of talent, but you don't know what you get. So for this season, for example, now De Ligt is already gone, Frenkie de Jong is gone, Donny van der Beek is gone, and Ajax, in the person of Mark Overmars, the technical manager, he bought Anthony, he bought Kudus, and they're really good players. I think you're really going to like them when you see them play in Europe. I think Anthony is going to be the revelation of this season. He's probably for 1 year at Ajax and then moves on to another big club again. But the problem for the youth is if you play the management from Donny van der Beek, for example, they have a guy, he's called Kenneth Taylor. He's 18 years old, really good player, captain of the under-19. Now he's in the Ajax second team. But the problem is he sees that there are going to be, he's a number 6, by the way. He sees that Ajax is buying players from 15, 20, even 25 million. And he also sees, well, if they buy them, it's with the intention of selling them for maybe double the money. Where are my chances? What's my future? What's my nearby future? And I think that can be a problem for Ajax because now they play like maybe in the current squad there are like 8 or 9 foreign players and maybe only 2 Dutch players from the youth. So the youth is watching. The youth used to be watching and said, "Oh, everybody's getting chances. We're staying at Ajax. We want to stay because we know we can be at the first team." But now it's not like that anymore.
Jan-Joos, we'll be watching Anthony, and we'll be watching how things evolve at Ajax. Thanks so much.
Now, with some of the biggest stories from the world of football, it's time for Quick Hits. Over to Gab and Stuart in London.
All right, enough of all that. Let's go to the part of the show that you're here for. Quick Hits.
Yeah, let's do it, Gab.
It's not all bad news for Barcelona. Reports suggest that they have a personal deal in place to sign Gini Wijnaldum from Liverpool, and they'll be making a bid very soon. Robbo, you see what Barca need?
Yeah, to a certain degree. I think he's a midfield player that can do most things. He can get forward and score goals. I think he can do a lot of good defensive work. He's not going to pick out great passes, but if Vidal goes, he's an ideal replacement. In fact, I think he's better now than Vidal would be. So I think it's a good one for Barcelona to take him. On the flip side, Gab, if Wijnaldum leaves, Thiago, is he the right man to replace him at Anfield?
Well, he's not going to replace him because they do different things. I mean, I think On Wijnaldum, he had a year left on his deal. I think, given the number of players in the late 20s, early 30s that the Liverpool are going to have and are likely to have, you can't extend him. You got to make a choice, move him on. And I think if you can get some money back, that's the right choice. Thiago Alcantara is a different player. Wijnaldum's replacement, if you will be Oxlade-Chamberlain, maybe Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
Thiago Alcantara gives you a different dimension, but he also has a year left on his contract, so he's going to demand, rightly, big wages, and he's also the same age profile into his 30s. So, I don't know. I'm just wondering,
Does it change the way that Klopp, if when Thiago's in the side, can he press the same way that Wijnaldum can?
No. So, but Thiago is the guy you use against,
you
use against teams who, play the 8-1-1 formation. But, I don't know. To me, I'm not so sure. Nations League is back. Thursday night, Germany take on Spain in a proper heavyweight clash. Robbo, who's in better shape?
I would say Germany are in better shape at the moment. They're developing some very good young players. Before the lockdown and when they were qualifying for the European Championship, I thought they looked a very good side. When you think they've got Timo Werner, they've got Sane coming back from injury, Gnabry, Kai Havertz can also play in that role as the number 10. In midfield, Kimmich is shown right back what a good player.
So you're excited by Germany?
So I'm excited by it. I think they're in better shape than Spain at the moment. Portugal faced Croatia on Friday, and as you will no doubt have noticed, Gab, Cristiano Ronaldo is on 99 international goals. How significant will this be if he gets 100?
It's a big round number. People love big round numbers. I never thought somebody playing in UEFA would get to 100 goals. It'll be even more significant, of course, if he gets 109 goals.
Who holds the record?
Ali Dai, the Iranian legend Ali Dai, who's already spoken out about this. I think it's just a matter of time, Robbo, but a tremendous achievement, and I think a sign of the times. Now, according to reports, Manchester City have bid 65 million euros for Napoli's Khalidou Koulibaly. The club are considering the offer. City apparently want an answer by September 15th. You know how I feel about these deadlines. They're all nonsense. But, Robbo, would Koulibaly solve their defensive issues?
I'm not sure it'd solve their defensive issues. I think he's an excellent player. It would make them better defensively, but it's up to Pep Guardiola to make sure that the tactics are right in front of him. Midfield players have to defend better. The front players have to defend better. But in terms of an out-and-out defender, Koulibaly is an excellent player and has been for quite some
let's keep scapegoating Stones and Otamendi like we've done for years.
Now, Neymar is one of 3 PSG players to have tested positive for COVID-19. The other 2 are Di Maria and Paredes. Gab, what does this mean for the start of their season opener next Thursday?
Well, apparently this all happened on an end-of-season trip in Ibiza. They were all there, but weirdly only 3 of them tested positive. It's in jeopardy now because there's different rules in place. If you get more than a certain number of players who've tested positive who can't play, then apparently it could be postponed.
And they're already behind in their fixtures.
And they're already going to be well behind. So definitely one to watch. Hopefully all these guys are asymptomatic. Hopefully they're taking care of themselves, and hopefully they'll be back soon. Luis Suarez has agreed personal terms with Juventus. Now, the only thing holding it up is that he's waiting on a passport because Suarez's wife has an Italian passport, and apparently that's all you need to play La Liga. But to play in Italy, you need your own EU passport. Also, apparently he wants a little bit of money from Barcelona to leave since he's got a year left on his deal. Robbo, is this a wise move for Juve?
They need a centre-forward. No Higuain. They've struggled to have a centre-forward over the last couple of years, I think. Dybala and Ronaldo like to come from that a little bit deeper. Yes, I think it's a wise move for one season, but...
Yeah, he's not going to go out. He's going to want a multi-year deal. He's taking a pay cut.
I think they could get a better centre-forward than Suarez. Suarez is past his best now, I would say.
Yeah, the thing is with Juve these days, it's all free transfers, cheapies, and you know why.
Gareth Bale, meanwhile, says that Real Madrid are making it very difficult for him to leave the club. I bet you've got lots of sympathy for him, haven't you?
I'm at a loss of words about who's advising him, who says it's a good idea to come out and say things like this. The story's been rumbling forever. I don't begrudge the fact you got a contract. Nobody forced Real Madrid to give you that contract. You just want to sit there and collect your money. That's fine. That's your choice. But don't come out and say they're making it difficult to leave. You're the one who's...
He could have gone last season, couldn't he?
He could go this summer, right? The whole thing is Real Madrid want a fee. Okay, that's fine. And I take a pay cut so that my new employer can pay them a fee, right? If that's not going to happen, then don't go and blame the club for making it difficult. Ridiculous. Milan are on the verge of announcing midfield wunderkind Sandro Tonali, which is a shock because some had him going to Juventus to be Andrea Pirlo's mini-me, and then it looked as if he was all but a dead cert to go to Inter. You like that Tonali, Benacer, Kessie midfield, don't you, Robbo?
I do. Kessie's got the power and the ability to break forward at times. He can destroy the opposition with his power and pace and energy. Tonali would be the passer. He's got that vision, 1 and 2 touch passing. And then Benacer is, again, another energy player that likes to win the ball back.
He can pass a little too, Benacer. Come on,
yeah,
man.
but is there one player there that's going to really break forward and score goals from midfield, which I think they do if you've got Ibrahimovic playing up front.
Kessie will do that.
Having kissed and made up with Inter, Antonio Conte is getting his way in the transfer market, and they've expected to sign Arturo Vidal and Kolarov shortly. Gab, this is a bit short-termist, isn't it?
You know, all the praise I lavished on him. Oh, look, Ashraf Hakimi, what a great signing, blah, 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 the future. No, look, Conte got his deal. Conte wants to win his title. It doesn't matter you're bringing in these old guys who make enormous wages. I don't think this is good for the club. I think it's good for Conte in the short term. He knows what he's doing. Maybe you'll win the title with him. But, what's going to happen in a year or two time when, you got to pay the piper for this and you've got FFP as well? I don't know.
They've got a massive squad there at Inter now, haven't they?
No, and they've got all these players they can't ditch because they make too much money. Dean Henderson says he's confident he can oust David De Gea, speaking of, as Manchester United's number 1. Looks like Solskjaer has a big call on his hands, Robbo.
I would still stick with De Gea at the moment. I still think he's an outstanding guy. He's made mistakes over the last year or two, but he's been Manchester United's best player for 4 out of the last 5 years, maybe 6 years. Henderson is a good goalkeeper, but at the moment I'd stick with De Gea and see how Henderson goes.
And say bye-bye to Romero, right?
Yes, of course. Now, Premier League clubs won't be displaying the Black Lives Matter message on their shirts next season. Gab, what do you make of this?
Well, they've said they're not going to have the slogan, but obviously they'll still respect if players want to kneel or whatever. I said this before. To me, this is a corporate message when it's clubs, when it's coming from your employers. I think the message has significance when it comes to the players. The minute the Premier League decided to make a corporate stand upon this, I think the message changed a little bit. Hopefully, if people feel this way, they'll still find ways of expressing themselves. Yeah. Otherwise, once you write it on a sign, whether it's this or the no to racism sign, it's just a slogan, right? It loses that sort of meaning it had before. By this time next week, Everton could have 3 new midfielders, Abdoulaye Doucouré from Watford, Allen from Napoli, and James Rodriguez from Real Madrid. Is my boy Ancelotti doing the right thing here? 2 of those 3 appear on their way down more than they appear on their way up.
I presume you're talking about Allen and James Rodriguez as the 2 players on their way down.
Yes.
Allen, I really like. I think he's an exceptional player. I think he'd be absolutely ideal for Everton. I think the fans will love him. Doucouré, I think, will be a good signing for Everton. James Rodriguez, I'm not quite sure.
Oh, Carlo's going to work his magic.
The Athletic is reporting that Chinese broadcaster PPTV hasn't paid some 160 million it owes to the Premier League in TV rights. Gab, why is this such a big deal?
Well, it's significant. By the way, PPTV belonging to Suning, the same people who own Inter Milan. It's significant because it's a shortfall in income. Also, people are wondering, has the China football bubble burst a little bit? I think it's a legitimate question that's out there. The landscape has changed. The global pandemic hasn't helped. It's something to keep an eye on. All right, Robbo, sadly, all good things come to an end. It's always